Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Liber8 podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, one of my dear friends from the June 2024 5-day podcast lead challenge, Kristine Best. And she is the best. We so much fun. We just had a wonderful conversation, and just now she gave me some fashion tips about hats so it can be matchy and call it the Hattie. I don't know if that's even a word in English. Hatty. And the Hatties, Hatties. So here we are. Welcome to the Hatties podcast, Fireside Hat. That could be a podcast, Welcome to the show, Kristine.
Thank you very much, Payman. I'm really appreciative of being here. Your show is fantastic, and your 5-day challenge was awesome.
What about my hat?
Your hat looks fantastic.
Thank you.
We're kind of matching. Look, quite coincidentally, we're matching today.
Even the background almost matches, our background.
Blue, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Is that a sign from the universe? That's going to be a beautiful conversation.
We're on the same wavelength. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. So, Kristine, tell me, the first question I want to ask you is, we're going to talk about your business and all that good stuff later on. But what I specifically want to know and dive deeper into my podcast is to get to know the person as a man, as a person, as a human being. So tell us, so people who don't know you, who's Kristine as a person, as a human being, and as a woman?
Who am I?
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell, well, I've lived a lot of life. I've enjoyed life. I'm still enjoying life, and I intend to continue enjoying life. And in the process, I'd love to help people, pass on some of the knowledge that I have gained in that lifetime.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we're going to dive into all of that deeper. First of all, I'd like to ask you a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a person. Ready?
Okay.
What makes you happy?
Everything. Music in particular.
Love that. What makes you smile?
You do?
Oh, what makes you...
lots of other things make me smile, Payman.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Now, let's take the happiness factor a couple of notches higher. What makes your heart sing? What sets your soul on fire? And what makes you come alive?
Music and wellness. They're my two passions in life.
I see. We're going to explore that in a moment. Absolutely. On the other side of the spectrum, what makes you sad and angry?
There are a few things that make me a little sad and a bit angry, because the system doesn't really solve people's problems. The system uses a band-aid approach on a lot of things, and that makes me angry because there are ways that people could be helped a lot quicker and a lot better, and I reckon there'd be a lot less mental unwellness, and also people would recover from illness a lot more quickly if the system was prepared to change.
Absolutely. Now, what scares you other than spiders?
Well, they don't really scare me. I'm wary of them because some of them are poisonous, but I'm not really afraid of anything in particular. I have a healthy awareness of things that can be dangerous, but I'm not fearful as a person.
Awesome. What is your personal number one superpower?
I have a few, I guess. I have a love of music that I want to share with people. I write inspirational songs, and I love to help people with their wellness. And I want them to be aware now while they're well, so that they don't go down the track of getting unwell. And people invariably go, I'm well, I don't need anything. And then they find that they're unwell, and that's harder to get back to wellness. And I want the world, my vision is wellness in totality globally. Everybody should be well.
Yes, indeed. I agree. What is one thing that you used to value that you don't anymore?
That's an interesting question. That's challenging me. Something I don't value. I suppose in the past I've had relationships because I wanted relationships, but those relationships were not necessarily good for me. And I don't value people who, A, are not positive, and or who may be negative, but if they don't want to be positive. So I don't value those people. I value people who want to change for the better, and I value people who are supportive, positive, prepared to give of themselves, pass on their knowledge. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I value that perfectly now.
I'm completely with you. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, what is one thing that you did not value before, but now you're valuing more and more?
I was always pretty independent. And life has taught me that we need other people. And there are times in your life when you need help. So I didn't want to be helped. I could do everything myself. I was quite independent and capable. But there came times when I needed help, and I had to be humble enough to accept that or even ask for it. And I think that's an important thing. And I value that humbleness, that vulnerability, because it makes us human.
Absolutely. What are your 3 core non-negotiable values?
Ethics and integrity. And I guess love.
Love that. Let's move forward. You love traveling, do you?
I do.
We
I
can
have
do
traveled.
Yes, we can do an entire show just on traveling. Traveling is also one of my biggest passion in life. But I'd like to take you down a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when you were a kid growing up. You know, when we're kids growing up, people around us, whether they're family, teachers, relatives, neighbors, they always ask us, hey, Kristine, what do you want to become when you grow up? What was your answer to that as a little girl?
I wanted to be a jillaroo.
A what?
A jillaroo.
What's that?
It's the female version of a jackaroo.
Like a
And the
kangaroo?
jackaroo is rode horses and worked on farms.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I loved horses. That's why I loved horses as a kid.
Did you grow up around horses? Did you have a horse growing up?
I didn't have one. My parents wouldn't get me one. I pestered them like crazy, but they wouldn't get me one because they're expensive, and you know, kids want pets and then they don't look after them properly, and they're a lot of work. A horse is a lot of work, and I didn't realize that as a kid. I just loved riding them, and I had friends in the area who brought their horses down to the park, and we all used to ride them, and I learned to ride bareback.
Wow. Amazing.
Fell off once. Never again.
Fell?
What's that?
You fell?
I fell off a horse. Yeah, because it was trotting and I was going like this. And it went up a little rise, and I went whoop off the back. And I realized, oh, I got a grip with my legs, and you know, anyway, so I learned a lesson. I never fell off again, ever.
Wow. Amazing.
After that one.
Okay. What was your relationship with school growing up? Did you love school? Did you hate school?
School was all right. Yeah, I guess I liked it when I was younger. And I liked it because we played sport, and you know, there were activities, and there were these monkey bars, and we did gymnastics, and we climbed rope, and we did all that, because I was brought up in a street full of boys. I loved anything that was boisterous and active. And then when I got to high school, there was hardly any activity, and I hated that. And some of the teachers were great, and one of the teachers, a couple of the teachers were a bit ordinary. So I didn't enjoy high school as much.
What was your favorite subject at school?
Probably French.
Oh, really? You speak French?
Oui, je parle un peu de français.
Eh ben, c'est bien ça, je savais pas ça.
Ah, vous parlez aussi.
Et moi, j'ai grandi en
Où est-ce
France.
que vous avez appris?
En France.
J'étais, j'ai visité la France il y a longtemps. Um,
Hmm.
I can't remember all the words now, so I don't converse
Wow.
in French as much, but yeah, I traveled to France. I went to France. In fact, I was visiting the Languedoc region,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they said, "Oh, you're from Paris," and I went, "No, I'm from Australia." But my teachers were from the Paris region, so I picked up the Parisian argot. But that was a real compliment that the people down the south of France thought I was from Paris. I was speaking good French then because I also worked in a French restaurant. And the chef and the people that worked there were all French, and I just spoke French all day, every day. It was great.
So the region you mentioned, Languedoc, that was not far from where I grew up, just a little bit further west, a city called Pau.
Okay.
You know where is Biarritz?
I've heard the name. Can't remember, can't place exactly where it is.
Beach town near Bordeaux.
Oh, okay.
So
the wine region.
oh yes, oh yes. The
Yeah.
place I grew up is home to some of the best white wines in the world, Jurançon, and a very historical town, very small little town, and yeah, that's where I grew up, and beautiful place.
And I suppose being in Canada, you were in Canada too, weren't you?
Yes, I'm Canadian, yes.
Yes. So they speak French there too, I guess.
And Quebec, and the province on the east, but again, the French there is completely different, and the French is speak in Canada than France. Sorry. So when I moved to Canada, as I always like saying jokingly, I learned 2 languages: English,
right. Right. So the accent was quite different.
Not just the accent. I was 14 when we moved to Canada. And in high school in Montreal, I couldn't understand what even the teacher was saying. I was asked, "S'il vous plaît, répétez, s'il vous plaît. Please, sir, can you please repeat?" The first time we repeated, the second time, he said, "Hey, you speak French?" I said, "Sir, I speak French. I don't speak Quebecois." He didn't like it. So, yeah.
But you were honest.
Huh?
You were honest.
Yeah, I mean, as a 14-year-old boy, you have no agenda, no, intention to be mean. I just said what was on my mind, and that was the truth,
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Wow, I didn't know that about you. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, just find places to practice. In your city, there must be French meetups, or even the French, what do they call it? I forgot the name.
Alliance Française.
Yes, thank you. Alliance Française, yes. And lots of meetups to speak French and listen to French music, French movies. Not the current movies, they're not the best, but the movies from the past up to the 90s, they were amazing, especially 70s, 80s. They were amazing movies with incredible actors. Complete opposite of today's actor, completely devoid of any talent. So, which is music even compared to
it is interesting because we don't have any really great actors and actresses. There are a couple, but not many like in the past.
I know.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, it's always good to practice and learn a new language because it opens a new world for you.
Bien sûr.
En effet. So you know what to do. Honestly, I didn't know you speak French. Otherwise, would have loved to speak French more with you because it's always a pleasure speaking French. I have nobody to speak French to here other than family when I call them home. But even they,
j'ai oublié de trop.
on n'oublie jamais. Ça revient. We never forget. It comes back.
Yeah, it'll come back. It does, because I've been to Vanuatu where they speak French as well. And so I had conversations when I went there. I went there 7 years in a row. So, yeah.
Awesome. What was your least favorite subject in school?
maths, I guess. It wasn't that I didn't like maths. I didn't like the teacher in high school.
Hmm. Okay.
She tried child psychology and treated everybody like as if we were little kids, and we were young women. Put your hands on your heads and all this kind of stuff. And
Yes.
I just didn't like it.
Like
Yeah,
this? What for?
yeah. Oh no, you had to put your fingers like that and put them on your head. And I refused. I just didn't like it. I just thought it was demeaning and it was
Why
stupid.
was she
So I
asking
got
students to do that?
because people were talking or a bit noisy a bit, but I think it was because they didn't respect her, and so everybody played up. And I used to get sent to the headmistress's office occasionally.
Just
Yeah.
once a day?
Sorry.
Once a day only?
I was a bit challenging when I was younger at times, and I was a bit headstrong, I guess. Yeah, I pushed the borders.
You were or you still are? Come on, be honest.
I love pushing borders. Yeah, and
Exactly.
well, you know, testing the rules. Why does it have to be like that? I don't like it like that. Why can't it be like this? And
Yeah.
I'm always looking to streamline or make it better, or you know, if I think it needs fixing, I want to fix it.
Beautiful, beautiful, awesome. Now, imagine that we were in the same class in grade 10, 11. What kind of student were you? What kind of girl were you? Were you like the shy one, the quiet one, the chatterbox, the superstar, the cheerleader?
I wasn't the most flamboyant and I wasn't the most reserved. I was sort of in between, but I love playing sport and being active, and we didn't do a lot of that in year 10 and 11. I left in year 11 and then I ended up going back for a while, and then I went, oh, I don't really like this. So I did further education later, but as a so what would I have been, 14, 15 or something like that, 14, 13, 14, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, so I wasn't overly outgoing and I wasn't the most reserved either. And there were two different groups of people that I belonged to, you know, at lunch times and sometimes after school. And I had the goody two-shoes and the others that were a little bit more outgoing, let's say. And so sometimes I'd hang out with that group, sometimes I'd hang out in the other group, but I didn't ever feel like I totally belonged to either one. I never belonged. Yeah, like I just didn't relate to these people. They weren't on my same wavelength exactly, but I felt like I wanted to belong somewhere, and so I just hung out with these people because I didn't like the rest of them.
Okay. Were you popular with the boys?
Yeah, I always got on all right with the boys. I was brought up in a street full of boys. So boys, yeah, even when I was working, I didn't want to go with the girls. They used to talk about people. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I loved the boys because we talked about life and stuff. And, you know, the conversations were way better. So I've always gone on all right with guys.
Good, 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 good. Do you remember what was your very first job and how much you get paid the first time you worked in your life?
I was working in a French restaurant at the age of, I guess I was 15 or 16. 15. I would have been 15. It was an awesome job. I started in the kiosk serving ice creams, chips, hamburgers, and lollies and stuff like that, or candy, whatever you want to call it. And then the boss saw I was a good worker and he said, how would you like to learn silver service and work in my restaurant, my French restaurant? And I went, mais oui, because I was learning French and I loved that idea. Anyway, so yeah, he taught me how to do silver service, and I served Hanna-Barbera of cartoon fame and his entourage. And I was the hostess. I would greet people at the door and then I would serve them food at the table. There were other waitresses. So I filled in where I was needed. So I would take away the finished meals and I would pour the wine. I would recommend one. They'd ask me about wine. And we all used to eat the food that the restaurant cooked. Whatever was left over, the staff ate so that we knew what it tasted like. We could recommend it to people. And the boss would also give us wine. And we would appreciate the wine and understand why it went with that meal, and because he wanted us to be knowledgeable to be able to help his clientele. So I had a really good job, and I was being paid double what anyone my age was being paid when they went to be, say, a secretary, or, you know, like a telephonist or something at the time, you know, or a receptionist. I was earning double. So I think the wage at the time was, and I mean a top wage at that time, we're talking about a long time ago because I'm 70 now, right? So when I was 15 or 16, you would have got $20 a week, $25 a week. I was earning 70 because I was also getting tips. And I bought records and clothes and stuff. And the boss, because I spoke good French, he got me to teach a new chef that he got in from Paris, got me to teach him English. So we'd sit in the park and I'd be teaching him English from one of my French textbooks because it had French and English in it. And so I got paid to do that. And I go, oh, you know, he actually used to get me to drive the car to get the champignons out at Minchinbury. And then I would drive back in the car. And then he'd say, take the car home and come back for your next shift. So he gave me the car to take home.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so like I had a really good job at that age. And I was very young to be driving. But I could drive.
Wow. Did you have a license? It was just whatever.
No, no, I didn't. No, a bit naughty, huh?
You never got stopped by the police?
No.
Ooh, flirting with the devil and getting
naughty.
away with
Yeah,
it.
There were a few things that I did in my younger day that were a little bit avant-garde, and yeah, probably shouldn't have done them. But and there are a few things I'm not particularly proud of, but you know, I'm human, and that was the way it was back then.
Yeah.
He knew I could drive, and so yeah, he made sure I could drive.
I kind of missed that kind of world where it's sort of more genuine, more innocent back then, you know?
It was, and it wasn't, nothing was malicious, or you know what I mean. And I was doing work, so it was important, and you know, so that the work could keep going. And I wouldn't do that sort of thing now. I've learned better morals than that. I mean, it was naughty, but you know, when you're younger, you push the borders a little.
That's when you started pushing the, I mean, you emphasized on you pushing the buttons, right?
Yeah. You got to find out how far can I go, right?
Okay, what are the rules whenever you do something else, start something new? Okay, what are the rules? Okay, now let me beat them.
Can I get around that? Can I just bend it a little? Yeah, that's right.
Beautiful. Let's move forward. How would you describe your path from the moment you left school to now? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward? Once you're into one lane, you were set for life, or was it more like turns and twists, like a roller coaster?
I don't know. I never had to worry about jobs. I always got a job. I didn't stay in jobs for a really long time because I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to try something else. So I did all sorts of jobs, different jobs. And it was good because, you know, I had a really good all-round experience. And I spent a lot of time later on in administrative kind of roles, and did personnel administration, and I got into a job where I was doing bookkeeping stuff, and I went, well, I hate bookkeeping, don't want to do that anymore. It wasn't my forte, so that didn't like. In fact, I was going to do a bookkeeping course, and we were learning a little bit about law and torts and things like that. And I kind of liked the idea of law, but I thought bookkeeping, nah. I looked at doing law, and then I decided, no, that's not for me either. So I did a lot of different types of jobs, and I guess I was always interested in wellness. So in my 30s, I set up a business, and I did that for 20 years. was natural remedies and injury rehabilitation. And I also went to uni and got myself a degree, Bachelor of Sports Science. And I also did an associate diploma in exercise and sports science. So I finally found the course that I wanted to do. I didn't want to be a physiotherapist or a chiropodist or any out of the, health kind of role. But I was always interested in physical activity and sport and things like that. So this course suited me. I did anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics. I loved all that stuff. And it did some psychology, developmental psychology, motor skill learning. It was really practical and I loved it. And it really helped me in my business. And having done biomechanics, I became very interested in posture because I was interested in posture at 13. So in my 30s, like I applied the biomechanics and helped my clients with their posture. And I did posture analysis and posture correction and things like that. So that was my love. I loved that. But life happened after 20 years and I had to close the doors because I was the business and I couldn't sell it. So then I just went and worked for other people part-time while I raised my son. I did a little bit of massage. I found a few clients to just keep me going till I got a job. And then I was an office manager and then I became office and operations manager because the operations manager left. And I could do both jobs because I was efficient and effective and I knew what he wasn't doing right and I could fix it. So anyway, that was my fixing period. And yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome.
That was a good job.
Moving forward, there's a saying that says, change your story, change your life. And by story, I mean what we tell ourselves in our head all day long. So when you, Kristine, when you were at some of your darkest, most challenging times in your life, how did you change the story internally to change your reality externally?
That was an interesting period. I'd gotten into a business relationship and it was not good. And it took me a while to get out of that. I actually felt somewhat depressed during that time because I was kind of stuck and I couldn't get out of it. I'd tried different things. Anyway, then I just decided, that's it, I'm going to get out of it. And I prayed to God about it and miraculously it was all sorted. So I just decided I wasn't going to let this bring me down and I had to change my circumstances and God promises he's going to help you. And so I trusted him and he did. And it was miraculous. He created a flood to change the course of those events that allowed me to get free of that relationship. And it took a time to really get over that because it was harrowing. It was a very harrowing period. That person wouldn't let me go. He said, I'm going to put a bullet in your head. You're going to go and do this and that and the other thing. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And he said, and if you don't do that, I'll put a bullet in your mother's head, your father's head, and your son's head. Right? So he was a really nasty person. And that came out over a period of time. And so he was very controlling and it took guts for me to stand up against that, right? But yes, I decided I had to do something because I didn't want that kind of life and I didn't think it was right for him to treat people like that way. And so one by one, his nasty tentacles came off my life and we'd bought investment properties, 2 investment properties. And in the end, because he used to threaten, no, you're not going to get those, you're not going to get anything. In the end, one of them was sold and I got the money from that and then he was gone. Yay. So I was free. And
what do you mean he was gone? He left on his own or what happened? Or you died?
Yeah, like I said, there was a flood and it changed the circumstances. And he actually came back to me and he says, let's settle this amicably. And I said, oh, that's the best idea you've ever had yet. And so it was settled amicably, and we went our separate ways.
Great.
So there we go. There's a lot to that story, but that's simply it. And then I went and got a part-time job I became an assistant quantity surveyor. I was taught how to do quantity surveying, and I was an assistant to the quantity surveyors in a very small business. And I quite liked that because I was flitting over to Perth and down to Melbourne and up to Rockhampton and down to Griffith and Ulladulla and doing all these inspection jobs. And I quite enjoyed that because it was variety, and some places were challenging. And then I'd come back to the office and input the data and produce a report for the customer. And so I enjoyed that for a while. But then when COVID hit, it changed that job from being an outdoors going places job where the clients would take all the photos and send them to us, and then we'd analyze the job, and I'd just sit in front of the computer day in, day out, day in, day out. And I was doing music at the time. I've been doing music for a few years, and I thought, I just got to do music. And I had this overwhelming feeling that I couldn't sit in front of the computer. It just used to kill me to have to sit there and input this data. And so one day I just went, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. I can't force myself to do this anymore. And I said to the bosses, I'm leaving tomorrow. I should have given them more notice, but I just got to a point I couldn't do it anymore. Hated it. And I thought, I'm going to be a musician. I'm going to play music. That's what I want to do. And I'm going to do it full time. And so I did.
Well, one thing that I want to know a bit more, dive a bit deeper, as you said, this very abusive relationship, business relationship with this man. One thing that I learned in life is that nothing happens to you, but for you. And one thing that changed my life, as you know, my story is asking empowering questions, not disempowering questions. For example, such as, what is this trying to teach me? What is the lesson for me to learn that? So now with the eyes of awakening and wisdom, when you look back at that chapter of your life, which was very painful with that man, and when you ask those two questions, what was that trying to teach you? What was the lesson for you to learn to that? What's the answer?
That I will never allow someone to intimidate me like that again. And also it's made me more aware to recognize the signs of someone intimidating me. I can just say, I'm not interested, and walk away. So back then, the signs were very subtle. And if you ask any woman who's ever been in a situation like that, it's all very, very subtle and gradual, right? And so that's how it was. But now I could actually, if somebody was telling me what was going on, if they confided in me about things that were happening in a relationship that they had, and I would go, well, that sounds a lot like my circumstances. I suggest you stop it right now. Stop that relationship. So I could help somebody, you know what I mean? And it was along the lines of domestic violence. I mean, it's the same principles, and it's the same principles that terrorists use. They create chaos, they create intimidation, they generate fear, and they isolate you, and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what they do. It's the same MO for these kind of people. But he was I think he was bipolar personally, and a bit of a psychopath, because he had all those qualities. Yeah. And
First, when
it was a really difficult period, but made me tougher in the end. Once I recovered from all of that, it's made me a better person, and I can help others through it.
Absolutely. So in the beginning of that relationship with them, how was it different, and how did he start to show his true colors?
It was quite some time into our business relationship, and he'd explode, and then he would apologize, and that's kind of how it starts. And so then it becomes more regular, and they start chipping away at your self-esteem. So it's a gradual stripping away. They're very, very cunning. Yeah, so they're very smart. They manipulate people. Well, he used threats, right? And I knew he had, his father had guns. So, you know, I just, oh, and he was also going to a firing range to practice. So, anyway, you know, in the end, I got my 50% out of that relationship with the properties, and I walked away with still my self intact, really, you know. There are a lot of women who don't walk away from those situations. So I counted myself lucky to walk away with what I did walk away with.
What was the moment
And
for
so,
you?
Sorry, what?
What was the moment for you that really was the last straw that made you say, you know what, I need to get out, that gave you the courage to stand out for yourself?
The way he spoke to me on the phone one day was just abysmal. I actually recorded it. I actually got the guts to record it.
Good.
And I thought, if I have to, I'll use it, right? Because it was horrendous, this conversation. And I thought, if he knew I was doing this, I'd have been in big trouble, right? And so, yeah, I recorded that. And I took it to I was in a church group, and there was a guy there who was studying to be a solicitor. And I asked him, well, actually, somebody else suggested I speak to him. So I spoke to him about pro bono work, you know, to help me get out of this relationship. And if it couldn't be pro bono, could it be as minimal cost as possible? So he actually did do pro bono, and I had to do the work that he said, and I had to put into place all the things that he suggested. And I played that recording to him, and he went, "This guy is getting out of your life. I'm going to make sure of it." So, and he did. And the first thing I had to do was take out an AVO.
What's that?
An apprehended violence order.
Like
right. So it's an order, but that the police take out, and they send it to him and said, "You will not go within certain distance of Kristine, and you will leave her alone," blah, blah. Not that they mean anything, because these men who get these things don't care about it, and they go and they can kill women, and they have done, even although they have one of these things. And I thought, as soon as I take this out and he gets it, he's going to be livid, and I know I'm going to cop it. It's going to create problems. And I was working at the time as office manager for this organization. And of course, it did create problems. He bombarded the organization. He sent a virus to the organization. And luckily, I had a good relationship with the IT manager, and he told me how to fix that. And so we prevented that infection. And he sent faxes and pages. Like, he was just, and he'd ring and abuse, and I'd hang up, and like, that was pretty difficult time. And I thought, he's going to come down here and he'll want to shoot me or something. But anyway, it didn't come to that. I stood my ground, and yeah, it eventually died down. And then there was this flood, because he was going to come down and do something, and he couldn't get through because of the flood. So by the time he got back home, he rang me and said, "Let's settle it amicably." So there you go. That was like a total turnaround.
Yeah, wow. It came to
So yeah, it was a pretty horrible period in my life, but but you know, it taught me that, you know, don't worry about what's going on. You just focus on doing this and this and this and whatever I had to do. And in the meantime, I was raising my son in amongst all of this. Yeah.
How long does this whole thing last?
10 years.
Oh, wow, it's a long time.
Yeah. Well, initially it was all right. Right. Like I said, in the beginning, it was all right. And then just, yeah. So probably 7 years of that was pretty horrible. And my dad had tried to help me get out of it. And we went to an accountant to try and get things sorted. And as soon as the email from the accountant hit Mr. X, he was on the phone to me. You go and tell this accountant that you are going to withdraw your request or you're going to get a bullet in the head.
Wow. What was
He said, or you'll need a criminal lawyer. And I thought, oh my God, I don't want that. And then it'll just be even worse for my parents. Like it was a really difficult situation because I couldn't find the answers to get out of it. I wanted to go to the accountant. My dad had suggested it. And I said, all right, I want to get out of this. Let's try it. And I was very apprehensive, and obviously with good reason, because I knew what he was like. Anyway, so I had to tell my dad, this is what he said. You can't, like, we're going to have to wait and see if I can find some other way. So, yeah.
What was
that
your
was
request?
frustrating.
What was your request to the accountant?
Well, I wanted to get my tax done.
Ah.
And he wanted to control that. But he wasn't doing the tax and helping me to do mine and giving me what I needed to do my tax. So I thought, I'll force his hand. And that didn't quite work.
No. Wow.
So I just had to bide my time and wait for the right, well, I guess the right option or the right solution to appear, which it eventually did.
Beautiful. Wow. Let's move forward. Let's talk about your business. Tell us about your impact, your business, and how are you making the world and around you a better place?
When I had my business in Sydney all those years ago, from 1980 to 2000, I helped a lot of people with their wellness. And I did that because the health, as I said before, the health system treats the symptoms. They analyze what's wrong with the person. They go, oh, that fits this scenario, and they put them in a box. This is what you have. This is your condition. And then they want to give you drugs, go home and rest, whatever. It wasn't actually addressing the root cause. And so these people weren't getting better by going to the doctor, the physio, the chiro and all, because I treated the symptoms. These people would come to me eventually and they'd say to me, oh, I've been recommended to come to you. There's somebody who's been here and they speak highly of you, and can you help me? And I'd say, well, I can, but how much? I don't know at this point. I'll need 3 to 5 sessions. And so invariably, I would help these people because I made it my business to find out what it was that was causing the problem, right? And so when you eliminate the problem, you've still got to treat the symptoms, but because the problem is not there, the symptoms start to wane, and you treat the symptoms and they get better really quickly. So I prided myself on that, and I had a good business, and I had doctors, physios, chiros, a nurse, a psychologist, all referring people to me back then. And like I said, life happened and I had to close the business, and I moved to the Central Coast to raise my son. And I worked for other people. And I was really disappointed, well, I suppose devastated really, that I couldn't achieve the goals that I had, because I had goals that I wanted to do something with the system to change it so that people would get better quicker, that people would be treated the right way, and that, they wouldn't just treat the symptoms, they would treat the root cause. And so I was really upset that I couldn't do that anymore. And I just thought, oh, well, I guess that's not going to happen now. And I just thought, I'm an ordinary person. I'll just go and I'll raise my son. I'll go to work. I'll earn a few, enough money so I can spend plenty of time with my son. And that was what I did. But when my son was, I suppose, about 17 or 18, and I decided I wanted to get into music, which was another thing I wanted to do, because I played guitar at 15 and 16. And so I got into music, and it just went on, and I just loved music, and I really threw myself into it. But that led me to get a coach who coached me on leadership, engagement, productivity and stuff. And I thought, oh, well, that will help me in my music business anyway. But during the course of that, I did my dreams, my goals, my values, and he helped me through some limiting beliefs that I had. And I realized, no, I'm going to do my wellness business again. And I've set it up in the last 12 months. And, I've realized I'm at a point in my life where I've still got all that knowledge and expertise, and I can bring it into now. It doesn't matter that it was 20 odd years ago. It doesn't matter. I'm in a really good place in my life to be able to help people. And I'm very excited about that. So I can look at my goals again and go, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. I'm doing that. And I've added a few as well. I've got some big goals, and I want to get into sustainability to help communities that are struggling, that don't even have latrines. They don't have a medical center. In a lot of places, they don't even have medical help. They don't have bandages and stuff like that. So we're working with somebody. I'm actually working with 2 other Australian businessmen. We're helping a guy in Uganda, and we're setting up a charity to be able to raise some funds to help this guy in Uganda. And one of our team has been over there to meet him, so we know it's totally legit. And the grant, he's had a few grants from the government, but they don't get very much, right? And all the community are very poor, so he's really struggling to set up or continue with his business. So anyway, we're helping him, and we're going to set up a farm, and that farm will produce not only fresh food for these people, it'll provide jobs, and the profits will build accommodation for widowed women and orphaned children, because AIDS is rampant there. And people die from that all the time. And the profits will also help schools, providing materials and things for schools. It will also provide education so that we can try and eliminate the problem of AIDS, which is a sexual problem there. It's kind of endemic in the culture. And it will also build a medical centre.
Is that among the Aboriginals?
It's to do with the local people, the Ugandan people.
Uganda.
There aren't any Ugandan people all around the area of Luwero, which is not far from Kampala.
Okay.
75 k's from Kampala. So we're going to be helping all that region around Luwero. And so we're very excited to do that. And we've got a project it's in its baby stage at the moment, but we're planning to help the guy set up a coffee, drying the coffee beans and grinding them and selling them back so he can make a profit. And that will then generate funds to be able to provide services and things to the community, to people who need it. So I've got big ideas about what I want to do. And once we've got that model ready, we're going to apply that model in various other places around the world. So it's not just my wellness business. That's helping people be well, because they have a shorter lifespan because they don't have the nutrition, they don't have medical help when they need it, and it's a very tough lifestyle there. And like I said, AIDS is very rampant, so that shortens somebody's lifespan rather tremendously. So they have a lot of problems, and poverty is it's a really tough life. There's a grandmother over there who takes her kids to the local quarry. They chip stones to make stones and slates for building. Her and her grandkids, just so they can eat.
Wow.
So it's like hard labor. And I just find that, I don't know, it's just, you know, that old lady should be enjoying a different quality of life than that. It's like, that's tough.
The kids should be in school, yeah. Wow.
And the kids in school, yeah, all that kind of thing, you know, it's, and the kids in the schools don't have even drawing things or pens and paper, or, you know, they don't have laptops, they don't have stuff like that, they don't have musical instruments, they don't have anything. And
Yeah.
you know, we can help them just giving them those kinds of things. We don't, you know, we don't want to just give them stuff and they don't appreciate it or value it. We want them to be self-sufficient so they can do it for themselves. And we're going to teach them how to do that, and, you know, provide the programs where they empower themselves to be self-sufficient.
Wow. Beautiful. Love that. So this is what you're working on currently?
Yeah, working on that currently.
How's that going?
Slowly, because it has a lot of government rigmarole to set up a charity, and it all has to be done totally legally, and we want to do it right the first time so it goes through smoothly. So we've been getting help from various people. We're in the process of doing that paperwork, and you've got to prepare budgets and all sorts of projections and things like that, and plans of how you're going to run this thing. So we're also, we've met a few people who can help us financially. We've got a meeting on Friday for that, and we're quite positive about the outcome of that, because if we can get that coffee bean project up and running, that will help to make the Ugandan organization that we're working with self-supportive, and then we can help take him to the next step. So it's going to be very rewarding.
Absolutely. These are the kind of works that I love, you know, hearing about and showcasing on my podcast, because again, my podcast is called Leaders with a Heart, building businesses with a heart, with a purpose, with a mission. Sure, we all need to make money, but let's do so in a way that's meaningful, impactful, and purposeful, and helping the world an our way. So I love that. Keep me posted.
And
And
that's one way I can give back, because I want to give back. I want people, I hate the thought that we live in luxury by comparison.
oh yes.
And in Vanuatu, like I said, I've been to Vanuatu 7 times. They live in buildings that are not as good as our backyard sheds. We've got better sheds in our backyards than what they live in.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think we could make their life a little more comfortable. We don't have to give them a luxury apartment, but we could help them. Some of them don't even have a floor, a concrete floor. It's dirt floor, and they just put tarpa mats down and they sleep like that. So I just think we could make their life a little better.
Absolutely. You know, there's a saying that we might feel that our life sucks, we have nothing, but then there are people in the world that would kill to have the lifestyle we have.
Yes.
Seriously.
Well, you know, it doesn't mean to say our lifestyle is all that easy. There are challenges here, you know, and rents are expensive. So they see our lifestyle, oh, we're rich, but we're not necessarily, because prices have gone up. We're all struggling to pay our bills, right? It's not easy. It's not as easy as what some of these third world country people think. Oh, you know, they've got it all, and it's not really true. Yes, we live in better places, and we have a better lifestyle generally, but it doesn't mean to say it's easy. Yes. So it's educating people about the way things really are, and all that kind of stuff.
Beautiful. You're also a singer and songwriter?
Yeah. that's a part of my life I really like.
Mm,
Well, I love it.
okay. Listen, we'll cover that. Let's call it a day because I have another call in a few minutes, but that's going to be part 2. We're going to cover about your songwriting, your wellness strategies, and all that, and part 2. So if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Well, if they go to linktree.com, I'm Kristine Best, Music and Wellness.
Okay.
And otherwise, they can go to my website, which is simply Kristine Best, KristineBest.com. And they can see about me there. That's got my music and my wellness stuff on that website.
That's beautiful. I'll put that on the show notes. Listen, Kristine, I salute you. You're truly with the heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world, your presence, your impact, everything. I love what you're doing, this project in Uganda. I definitely want to not only know more, but also keep me posted on that. And so I salute you. Have a fantabulous day and the rest of the week. And talk to you very soon, my friend. Take care.
Thank you for having me
Very welcome.
here on your podcast, Payman. I really appreciate it. And it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you. Have a good one. Take
Thank
care. Bye.
Bye.